You're listening to The Disc Golf Show. And you're listening or watching, maybe, The Disc Golf Show. This is episode number 4 for February the 25th of 2025. See, I didn't mess it up that time. I slowed down. I took my time. I learned from my past mistakes. My name is Justin, the guy who can't get a word out of his mouth correctly. With me today are these two.
I'm Nick.
I'm Ken.
And today, the show is brought to you in part by Final Nine Sports with their 2 locations, one in Orangeville, one in Rockland. If you can't stop in there, support local. That's the message. But let's say your local shop is out of something that you want. What do you do then? Ha! We have the answer for you there, too. What you should do is go to discgolfdealsusa.com/Disc Golf Show. Links below if you're watching on the YouTubes or in the show notes. It'll save you 10% off of your entire purchase. But you get a little kickback, too, just to put that out there. Now you know. We're not lying to you. We're very transparent, even though Nick didn't want me to say that. Today, we have lots of stuff going on in the show, so we're going to pour into it. It's going to be fantastic. It's chock full of good stuff. First up, though, if you didn't catch it on the last episode, you need to go back and you need to watch that one. I'll give you a hint. It's at the very end. So kind of fast forward, if you will, to the very end and enter into our giveaway, because that's coming out here soon. It's kind of our thanks and our give back for helping us hit 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you very much. And go enter into the contest and get some free stuff, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not prepared.
You've got to
for
be
this next segment.
He smashed his microphone with his hand.
I did like 4 times with the bill of my hat. I swear.
Yeah. Hey, other exciting
News.
I was looking for the button the whole time.
Other exciting news, it's draft season on Skip Ace. So get your Skip Ace leagues going. You can do it even after the first event if you're kind of behind the 8 ball and you got Supreme Flight open starting this weekend. You could still do it after that. There's a big gap then before they head to Texas and do Waco. So please, we'll talk more about the drafts later in the show, but Skip Ace.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking about, too, for our draft tonight, actually, doing a little recording maybe. We'll see how it goes. If it kind of devolves into degeneracy, maybe I won't post it. But for the most part, I'm thinking about at least recording kind of how our draft goes and give people an idea of maybe thinking about doing their own Skip Ace League or joining one, kind of what it looks like when we're doing the whole snake draft thing. So I might put that up on the channel later, too. So look out for that.
So we should edit our trash talking in our...
Absolutely not.
No,
absolutely not. That's not going to happen. That's going to definitely stand. Up next, though, that we're going to talk about is Robert. Okay, say his last name.
Burridge.
Say his last name. Burridge. I messed that up so often I didn't even want to say it. Joins Dynamic Discs. Actually, I think it was on the 20th of February. That's at least when I saw the announcement for it on Instagram. So interesting. We have another DD initiate.
Yeah, even with all the movement that we've been talking over the past few weeks, one name still has not landed anywhere manufacturer-wise, and that would be Haley King. Haley King, on her Instagram page, at least at the moment, I don't see a manufacturer sponsor. The only 2 that I show is Drive Bags, which are the chalk bags, and then Disc Dyes by Emily, which is obviously a disc dyeing business. But you're running a little close here. You're running a little close. You got a couple days. Is she going to announce something? Will she get picked up by, maybe she does an open bag? Maybe she's an infinite player or something like that. I mean, that's always a possibility.
What do you think the odds are that she just runs without?
Maybe. Yeah. Possibility.
I guess we'll find out if she's scheduled for the All-Star event. Maybe we'll find out right then. Maybe that's her announcement.
Maybe. Yeah, could be, because she is scheduled for that, though she is not scheduled for the Supreme Flight Open. So that's interesting because it's right there. Like maybe I think that's something to think about, Ken, is does she use that as her like jump off point for the season of guess who I'm sponsored by? Because she's still not on Innova's page anymore, you know, and
Right.
and on her Instagram. So maybe she announces it. I'm super curious now that you said that. So yeah.
Right. And keep following her on her socials and see if she's posting that she's even in Florida. Like,
exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
And then someone who did change sponsorship in a big way that everybody saw and talked about, Ricky Wysocki. And he's already got a win with his new bag. He just crushed it down at Shelly Sharp.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. You know, just, you know, same old Ricky. Again, it's not the arrow, it's the archer.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly. No, it's going to be interesting this year. So I think Ricky's off to a hot start. So I think if I remember right from last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, because my memory might be I'm getting a lot of white in here, so maybe I'm misremembering. But I don't think he started off like super hot last year, did he? I remember like AB coming out of the gate super hot.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember Wysocki being like, you know,
no,
up there
he kind
in
of
2 and 3
later in the season where he was pushed for, you know, challenging first in a lot of the events. But
right.
But yeah, like
again, he was very consistent. But you're right. I don't know if he started out like
it's almost like a thing so far this year, though, with all the players who have gotten new sponsors, they've already got a win with their new sponsors.
Got to feel good,
you know.
Right?
So that's kind of Jeremy Colling has a win, Isaac has a win, you know, Wysocki. So it's like you said, it's not the arrow. So.
Yeah, that's true. And it is interesting, though, like maybe that's a result of kind of bringing that little extra refresh to your game. I know, you know, Brody Smith talks about that a lot in terms of, or has talked about that a lot in terms of like bringing that extra thing back to it, making it fresh again, making it, and that change of the sponsor might be that thing that pushes a lot of people into that kind of mindset, right? Like, oh yeah, it's exciting again. It's that extra little thing because it's a new sponsor and new discs and, you know, that kind of thing. So we'll see if it's sustainable, if it carries into the year. I hope it does, especially for Mr. Raptor Legs himself.
Yep.
But we'll see. We'll see. Unfortunately, tendinitis strikes again. Maybe not the same person, but it struck Nate Sexton, and he announced a delay to the start of his 2025 season due to it, which sucks. I like watching Sexton play.
Yep.
Yeah, and he doesn't tour much as it is anyway.
Yeah,
so
it's
a
like
bummer to hear
another
that.
thing. Yeah, that like sets him back from seeing more play from Mr. Sexton. So bummer. That sucks. Hopefully he gets better soon.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing. Okay, so there was an update to some information related to President's Cup moving forward. President's Cup is now under PDJ ownership. There's a couple items that go along with that. One is it's actually moving this year just prior to the PDJ Championship Cup, or Champions Cup, which is going to be held actually close to us, which I'd like to go attend, hopefully.
Yeah.
In Stockton, California, the PDJ Champions Cup by OTB and MVP, but just before that is the President's Cup is going to be held. So President's Cup kicks off Wednesday, April 30th, and that is again in Stockton at Swenson Park. It's a golf course style tournament event. And then that's just ahead of, again, the Champions Cup, which is the first PDJ major of the year. And then moving forward with that, which I kind of like, because again, UC Maresma is a big factor in this. But moving forward, I think this is a great thing. The President's Cup is going to alternate between US and Europe in the upcoming years. So currently they have
US is odd.
Yep.
Europe is even.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's kind of cool, because then it's going to be that back and forth, you know, when it comes to that event, which is good. Home field advantage.
No, that's cool. Yeah.
Well, it also helps with the time delay that you always had when it was over in Europe. It was so tough to watch live, and it was such a unique event I always, at least myself, wanted to watch it live.
Yeah.
But, was I going to stay up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was going to be? And even worse for you guys out in the West Coast, like, are you getting up at 4, 5 o'clock in the morning to watch a disc golf tournament? Well, now you have a chance to see that format, because the President's Cup is a special format every year.
Yep.
Right.
To watch that.
Yeah. So it's some. I still don't think, when it comes to the tour for the pros, I still don't think that there is anything's like locked in. You know what I mean? Like, they're still playing with the schedule a lot, see what works best. Like, the one thing that we don't actually have in the notes that kind of popped in my head is the European Open and Worlds is going to be right next to each other. Those are two majors. So it's like, there are those adjustments that they're making from year to year, and they're finding out what is optimal, what works best for the schedule, for the pros. Right. So I do like that. It's still going to take a few years at least for them to really dial it in, and especially even not only that, but just the events themselves. Because we see events popping into the tour and popping out of the tour and becoming Q series or whatever they end up calling those tiered events leading up to the Pro Tour. I'm curious as to how long it will take before we actually have a locked in 90% of the events are always going to be the same, and then you will have those floaters that pop in and out. But yeah,
right.
It's good to see. Good to see it.
We touched on it last week, how the tour used to start, Gentlemen's Club. We didn't even mention that. If you're an old schooler disc golfer, you remember they were out Gentlemen's Club. Then they changed the name, hence the Vegas Open. But again, we'd be out in Vegas by now. The tour would be out, in California doing the Wintertime Open.
Yep.
And Shelley Sharp Memorial, whatever they name that now, whatever those events are still happening at the same time. But they're not technically they're not even technically, they're not Pro Tour events.
Yep.
So you're right. They're just kind of feeling it out and what's, what events are going to fit where.
How it evolves. Yep. Right. Exactly.
Right.
Speaking of evolving, the Disc Golf All-Star event. Now, we just mentioned earlier that it's happening, this week, but it's also going to happen at the end of the year. And then going forward, it's going to be an end of the year event and happening each season that way. And again, if they change the format this year, you're not going to sit there and listen to some DJ play, and blast the music that they get copyright striped on YouTube for, and having people just putt in a driving contest. Now it's just a doubles event, as far as I know, right? There's no skills events at all, is there?
I don't know what their whole setup. Again, that's evolving in its own. So they're trying to figure out. The last year, I think it had the cutouts of the drives where they threw over, through, under, left, right. I didn't like the visual of that. I like the idea, but I didn't like the visual.
I like the skills competition of it. Yeah,
the putting was okay. Like, the distances were good. Kind of like the straddle thing idea. Like, those were kind of good too. But there's definitely room to work to make that event better moving forward.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm always up for a distance contest if they just keep including those in some of their special events.
Like,
yeah, you never know. He could have an off day.
That guy still has distance to grow, I feel like.
Hey, Lizotte threw up that controversy and said that he should have won the distance record.
Lizotte's still got the talent, yeah, for sure. And then Burr is contesting that, like we talked about before, that he's throwing 700 to 800 feet now, and we'll see. Now, the other thing I like about the last one is it a golf shot? Because the salt flats is a completely different competition. You know what I mean?
True.
I prefer, to be honest with you, I prefer the challenge that AB threw. It was between the flags.
Yeah.
And it was a bomb. So yeah, I do also like the salt flats because I like to see those 1,000+ feet throws.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you couldn't see the disc at all.
Exactly.
As soon as it left the hand, it was gone.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I like that you got to at least have some inbounds and out of bounds, in order to get it to be a qualifying shot.
It's just two different things. They're completely different from each other, right?
Oh,
yeah, you're throwing a disc, but one's golf, one's just how far can I chuck it?
Yep.
Right.
With some wind
different things. And well, with a lot of wind assist. Yeah, absolutely. And I want both.
I hope they keep some kind of something else other than golf, like every other, the major 4 sports, their all-star events have skills, some kind of skills or showcase competition in there, whether it's 3-point shot in the dunk contest with the NBA All-Star or the home run derby with baseball. Like, keep something else other than just golf, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Make sure that you're staying up to date on the Pro Tour and all those things. One of the ways that you can do that is by watching DGN, the Disc Golf Network. Tomorrow, actually, I think they have a press conference for the Supreme Flight Open starting at 10 a.m. PST, but log into there. It'll tell you what it is in your time zone, applicably. But do you guys watch the press conferences? I didn't watch them all last year, but I watched a few here and there, and I find them kind of interesting. Like, for me personally, I learned a lot more about individual players and things when they would go and reach out to those and talk to certain people, and more about the people that are running some of these organizations and tournaments, which was kind of cool. So, do you guys watch them?
I try to hit them a little bit when I can. Sometimes, obviously, personal opinion, some people I just don't want to listen to. But
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
But I have been, over the years, I have been turned on different players, where I didn't really care for them that much. But then you learn, again, personality plays a huge part in that. And so once you get to start to learn their personality and their quirks and their humor and stuff like that, those type of things can make me go, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm interested in learning more about them or hearing their opinion of the course and in these press conferences.
You learn a little bit of disc golf trivia about players, who's the player that actually owns a whip.
Right.
Oh, I forget who that is.
Starts with a K.
Yeah,
I remember.
I'm pretty
there
sure.
You go. There you go. 10 points. 10 points for Ken.
But not only the players, you get to learn from the TDs, and you get to learn. Sometimes Jeff Spring is on there, so you get the DGPT, people in there. So those type of things are interesting to me as well. So I do try to watch them. It just depends on availability, time wise, if I have time. But yeah, what about you, Ken?
I used to watch every word of every press conference, and now I'm more like Nick. I'm, and with everything we're talking about, everything evolves. They're really getting a little bit better with the questions, but after a while, it was the same questions to the same people. The same mistakes were even being made. Gosh, for the first 5 press conferences Holland Hanley had, she had to explain, I'm not an ultimate player. I just hang out with an ultimate player. I'm not the one who played ultimate. I played volleyball, So that kind of got, Holland Hanley. It kind of got annoying after a while. And like you said, there were some TDs I didn't care what they had to say. Yeah. Because again, I'm old school. I've watched, some of these courses for 20 years being played now. I don't need to know, that they changed one tee pad on hole 7 and, the basket placement on. So I've fast forwarded through and stuff like that. But I used to watch every press conference, every word.
Fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough. I was just curious because as I was thinking about it, I'm like, I think I'll try to tune in and at least skim through some of that and watch it. So I was just curious.
Some of it can be interesting. Some of it can be.
No, absolutely. I was just more curious what you guys do. I'm going to jump in and steal this next one anyways. So we found out that, we didn't find out. We had this plan to release these videos on the YouTube channel, as it were, for reviewing discs and their flight paths. And what's really interesting is the idea behind it was to show kind of two different flight performances of a disc as we throw them. One with a noodle arm, like myself, more towards the beginner, lower arm speeds. And then Nick, who he juices. He uses a lot of roids, and that's why his performance is way better.
You would understand how funny
longer.
That statement is if you saw me. Definitely don't.
No, they all understand. They all understand. We see you. We see.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, he actually throws a lot better, more at a higher amateur level than I do. So the idea was we put out flight performance of slower arm speeds and quicker arm speeds, because you have the manufacturer like rating, right, and the flight line that they give you, but that's more like the optimal professional high arm speed. So yeah, you get an idea of what the disc is going to do at optimum performance levels. But what about the beginner?
Yep.
What about the amateur that's not quite at that level yet, but getting there, right?
Yep.
So we're going to be releasing videos here very soon that cater to that. There'll be Nick and I throwing to represent kind of those two different skill levels. And we just recently, and what you'll probably see first, but don't hold me to it, is we had the, how do you say it, Luft? I know it's spelled loft, but it's Luft Neon, the MVP Range, which is Eagle's signature disc, the MVP Tempo, which is Colling's signature disc, and the TSA Mania. Did we throw the
Mana.
Captain's Thrasher too?
Mana.
Yeah. That's why I didn't look. Okay,
yeah,
Mana.
Discraft Thrashers on there. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then the Thrashers on there too. So you'll see a couple of those. And then we had some ideas for some other disc type review videos coming out soon. I don't want to spoil that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But this is all to say that there will be some new videos up on the website and on the YouTube channel that correlate to each other, I guess, that are each other. But basically, you'll go to the website and there's an easy way to kind of navigate by manufacturer, all that kind of stuff coming soon. So please pay attention to that. And we'll make another announcement when those are finally up there. But yeah, those are going to be exciting. And we've heard that there's a demand for it, which we figured there would be. So those are coming
recently,
out.
So, what was really fun about it was we went out there and we throw these 5 discs just as a test sample, right? And it's interesting because there were discs that Justin, saying that he throws not as far as me or whatever, right? He's a not an advanced or amateur advanced or whatever player, right? More beginner. But I think what was interesting and what I learned out there was that it doesn't matter to a degree, because there were discs that he was throwing out of those 5 that came out cleaner for him and seemed to go to me a better flight path than what I was throwing. So it's not even it's weird. It's hard to explain. It's not even like, oh, well, he doesn't throw as far. It's what disc feels comfortable in your hand and how smoothly you can throw that disc to your game and your release.
Right. Well, so it does too relate to your arm speed, though, right?
Yeah,
so
it does.
You having a quicker arm speed, if you get a hold of something that's really understable for you, that thing's going to flip. Because mind you, we're trying to throw them for flight path, so as flat and level as possible, right? To give you an indication of how hard it's going to be overstable or understable. So with your arm speed, when you throw something super understable, it's going to crank over and turn really hard, right? If you're trying to throw it just flat and not compensating with hyzer, right? But for me, since I don't have that high arm speed, it's going to come out more straight and give me a nice little S curve because it's not traveling as fast. It doesn't have as much spin on it, right? So it's better for me because I'm not throwing that fast. And I'll get more distance out of it because you're just going to hit the ground 20 feet in front of you, right? Like, also, there's the difference. Right?
Even in another aspect is I wasn't used to doing standing drives because I incorporate usually on the tee an X step, right? Because you started over recently this last year, you've been doing more of a standstill. So you're more comfortable throwing a standstill. So for me doing a standstill, it was a little bit different. So it wasn't as my natural throw. So that also, to me, I think that comes into play as well. But again, you will see these, like Justin said, coming soon. So pay attention to that. Okay, so I don't know if you've had any recent courses going around you, Ken, but the one that I was lucky enough to co-design finally went in and was installed literally the day after I think it was the day of our last show. I think it was that afternoon.
Yes.
So
that's awesome.
It's been installed for now 2 weeks. When it was officially open that day, I was actually sick, so I wasn't able to play it until Saturday. So Justin and I were able to go after actually the same day that we did those tests. We went out to the new course. I got to see how busy it is. It's got an upper parking lot. It's got an overflow parking lot. There is a dog park at that course too, but it's a small little dog parking lot there. The place was packed. I did already learn of how the flow is. Early on, there's a hole that gets a little bit of a backup, but we're already addressing how to deal with that. Hole 3. Hole 3 ends up becoming one of the toughest holes out there, even though it's it's just a really tight line, wooded line. So it showed me more than I thought. In the long run, I'm looking at, okay, well, how many people, what's the flow going to be, blah, blah, blah. But learning what holes are actually the more difficult holes was really interesting. And
do you remember the two gentlemen that we joined up with? It was Chris and Dave. Yep. There we go.
So,
Shut up.
We joined up with them because of the amount of people that were out there. We knew we were going to kind of be, slow going because it's still busy. It's new. A lot of the comments are, oh, it's a great course, blah, blah, blah. My opinion of that is I appreciate it. However, I do know there's that initial high of a new
it's something new and shiny.
It's new.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious as to maybe 6 months to a year out, what the opinion is of the course. It seems to flow, definitely after 3, seems to flow perfectly fine.
Way better.
In the current layout. Every hole except for one has 2 pin placements. I think that will come down those first 3 holes. But it was fun, man. It was fun to actually play a course that I was, again, lucky enough to be a co-designer of. And seems like people are enjoying it. So
absolutely. The only real negative I can say about the course is because it is so packed right now that the parking is dog water. It is. You want to play, get there early. Actually, get there late because I get there early. Don't show up when I show up. You get there late. I'll show up early to beat all of you there. But the parking, that I understand when it calms down a little bit, that'll probably work itself out. But it's tight. Yeah. It's tight in there.
I mean, there's a lot of parking too. There is spaces between the overflow and the main parking lot. There's a good amount of parking there. But again, I do definitely think that it's just because it's new, obviously. And I've even seen on social media of, I went and played Rockland or Shady, and man, it's dead. Thanks. I'm able to play that.
Really people away from the other courses.
It's shifted a lot of the traffic, which I think in the long run, again, will be good because it'll even out across the courses and then you'll have a good variety of being able to jump back and forth between the courses in our area. So
absolutely. If you're interested and you want to check it out, if you check in the links down below or in the show notes, if you're just listening to this on the podcast, Flow Disc Golf did a video where one of the other co-designers, Roger, is in there, and they just play the whole course. So they just kind of play the whole thing. You see it, and you see them hitting trees, which makes me happy because it's not just me. You can see the whole thing as they film the whole thing. So shout out to them.
I can say, first round, I had my first par on hole 1. I had my first single, hole 2. I had my first double, hole 3. I had my first birdies. So like,
Love it. Lots of firsts.
Yeah, lots of firsts. I do want to do a shout out to City of Roseville. The course itself is called Denio Family Park. But thank you again to City of Roseville for allowing us to have your first course in the city. First course means what? There will be more.
There will be more.
There will be more. Hopefully.
Absolutely.
Hopefully.
You know what there will be more of as well, Nick?
What's that?
My God, are you still talking?
Yeah, talking.
Yeah.
Disc golf conversation, that's what we're talking about. So question goes out, and feel free if you're listening on or watching on the YouTubes, or if you want to send us an email at theshow@discgolfshow.com. What you think? Here's the question, though. I'm gonna pose it to you too. Do you think there are discs that beginners shouldn't throw? Ken, what do you think?
Absolutely. I was one of those people. I was the guy who bought every high-speed driver I could find once I thought I had an arm speed. Now, again, I started in 93, so there wasn't like 12 speeds, 13 speeds back then. But as soon as they came out, I was throwing nukes. I was throwing, all those big rim drivers, and there was no reason to yet, because I really hadn't played that much in the first decade that I started. So my form wasn't there. I wasn't consistent enough playing. And I'm so jealous of all the discs that you can throw or should throw, or, besides the high speed drivers nowadays.
Absolutely. I think it's one of those, if you're brand new, all those high speeds, even most mid ranges, don't even worry about it. Like when I took my son out for the first time, I gave him a putter. I'm like, here you go. That's all you need. Yep. Just use it. Concentrate on throwing this flat, because I will tell you, that's still really hard for me. Throw flat level, master that, and you will instantly be better than me. And you can see it light up in his eyes,
you
better
would not
than Dad.
believe.
Game on, so.
You would not
one
believe
of those
all
things.
The people I coach and teach over the years, because I still do the coaching and things like that, that when we go back through then, I almost redesign their bag, and I take those higher speed drivers, I suggest to them, take them out. It's really, you just don't have a need for them. And there's, like I said, so many lightweight discs. Like Latitude has their gravity line now. Great place to start. I know we were talking about Blizzard Air Plastics, things like that. I know MVP, Axiom are very good with their lightweight discs. I don't think they have a name for any of their lightweights, right? Do they have a special name?
I don't know.
I don't know, actually, off the top of my head.
Again, when I worked at the store, we had a ton of MVP Axiom that were just out there, and they were, 158 grams and, 140 grams and things like that. Find yourself a lightweight disc.
Yeah.
Try to stay away from the high rim, the big rim disc.
I agree to a point. I agree that there is there when the first handful of times you go out on the course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until you get the idea of okay, this is how things work. I think beginner, there's a little bit of a period of time in which I consider people beginners, right? From when you start until, I don't know, when you can throw over 200 feet, right? Something like that, maybe. I think that at that point, when you're still a beginner, but you are getting a better idea of how things work, I think even a high-speed driver, depending on what it's, not for what it's made for, but you can use it in aspects, obviously, again, I'm going to reference hole 3, that the difficult hole at this new course, right? There is a line that is a turnover, well, not even a turnover. It's an Annie with a very overstable disc. That is a good line for this hole. Now, for a normal player, a person who's been playing quite a while, they're not going to throw there's a disc that it's got to be, they may not even throw that disc, that line, because they have a perfect release. They're going to throw a flat over on the left side of this tree, whatever, right? A more straight shot. But the flex play might be an easier shot for a newer player just because, okay, well, all I have to do is release it like this and it'll work itself out. I don't have to hit that perfect flat line to keep it flat. I don't want it to turn this way or that way. But if I take a really overstable disc and I release it on Annie, it's going to come out. I think at that point, try whatever. But yes, I do agree with you guys. Your first few times out, when you're initially learning, ultimately to me, it's just what level beginner.
Sure.
Are you?
And then there's also the kind of the aspect to what you should do in reality. Right? Because like for me, like you go out there and you're like, hey, man, just throw out this putter. And then after like 4 holes, you're like, but you have all these different things. Why can't I throw these different things? And then you're going to try it anyways. Yeah. Right. Like there's the practical, like you're going to try them.
Yeah.
But
it depends on what level you want to get to also. You know, not everybody's out there to like shred a course. They're out there to drink a beer, you know, maybe do some other recreational things and have a good time. They're gonna thumber a destroyer through the whole course. I've seen it. I literally played with a guy that it was like a male version of Own. He had like 3-4 different destroyers. I don't think he had a mid-range at all, and he had like 2 or 3 putters.
Yeah.
And sometimes he would even putt with his destroyer.
Yeah.
And he never threw backhand or forehand. He literally threw everything overhand.
He's like a Jake Wolf, right? He's just tomahawk, thumber. Yeah.
That is amazing. And I love this.
He never kept score, nothing. He just didn't.
Just played for fun.
Yep.
Yeah. My roommate, he's been playing as long as I have, like maybe 1994. He has never played a competitive round of disc golf. Ever. When he first started playing, he had a plastic bag, like Ricky did it up in New Hampshire that one day. He had a plastic bag with 4 or 5 discs in it. Didn't care. He still has a disc in his bag from the 90s. He has an old Wasp. Yep. It was a misprint Wasp that we bought way back. He still plays with it. He doesn't care. Yeah.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And that's perfectly valid. It depends on what you want to accomplish. If you don't care, throw whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're just having fun. Who cares? Throw different discs, try them out, whatever.
Yeah.
You know. But I think introducing someone to it,
right,
generally speaking, here's a part.
Again, the golf's game, both ball golf and golf, is to actually play the least amount. As the saying goes, to actually be the best at disc golf, you're actually playing the least.
You're
throwing the least amount of shots you possibly can. So in that sense, if that's what you're looking for, if you want the pure game of golf, then learn form, learn the disc. Like you guys were talking about before. I went to my coaching, brain, and I was like, well, because everybody has a different angle of release, a different height of release, and things like that. So yes, everybody has different hand sizes.
Yep.
And things like that. Sometimes, like myself, if you see, there's a little crooked finger there.
Yeah.
That makes for interesting throwing in disc golf. So there's always those little quirks that you can find, to whether you want to throw that disc or not, or.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. So we leave it off to you, the listener. Leave your comment down below or shoot us an email at the show at discgolfshow.com. Let's get into gear.
Oh, my.
And equipment.
What is he doing?
I forget about
So first up, if you would like to pick yourself up some gear or equipment, there's a fantastic place that you could do that outside of your local pro shop, and that would be discgolfdealsusa.com. Use that with the /disc golf show at the end, and you can save yourself 10% when you pick up that new disc or gear. This segment is partially sponsored by, this whole segment's actually sponsored by them, but this show is partially sponsored by them. So far, since our last show, we've had a lot of stuff being put up for certification and approved. So on February 17th, and this company's name is pretty interesting, Pie Pan Discs had the height approved. And this is the first year that they Oh, that's the first for this year, and they didn't have anything submitted for last year. As a matter of fact, the only thing that they had submitted for approval from the PDGA was in May of 2023. So it looks like maybe they're picking it back up again, and they're going to start maybe putting out more of those discs in the Pi Pan Discs line. And this would be their 6th disc ever, which I find kind of interesting.
We had a set of their discs, and their plastic is solid. It's a good. It feels like nice. Some of them are base plastic, some of them are they have the different tiers of plastic, and it's not your Costco basket with weird ribbed under not that type of base plastic, garbage plastic. It's I
like their names too. Quality. They have discs like the Beggar and all that kind of stuff. Yep. So I like what they're trying to do.
You know where Pi Pan disc comes from, right?
From the Pi Pan?
From the Pi Pan that originally started up in Massachusetts with the Frisbee Pi Pan or Frisbee Pie Company.
Really cool.
So I love it. I love it that they're, harken back to the beginning, the absolute beginnings of truck drivers throwing the pie pans upside down.
Smart way to go. On the 24th of February, we had the Protoflight Spindle approved, which is their fifth disc overall. And if you remember, Protoflight is doing the CNC machine discs, and this is kind of the first one, the Spindle, that's going off of that naming convention. And I don't know if they're going to kind of continue that or not. They had like the CNC Plus, the CNC Minus, all of those things, but this one's called the Spindle, and it's their 5th disc overall. I definitely want to get my hands on these because the CNC stuff flies a little differently. It's interesting, and I in kind of the claim to it is the consistency of that, right? If you CNC something, it's going to be very, very consistent versus something that's injection molded. So we'll see. I would like to get my hands on like 5 different CNC pluses, and we'll see how consistent they are. Yeah, the variable's going to be me. Gateway had the Ghoul approved, and that's the first for them for this year, which is interesting. I think that one's a driver. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Shaman Disc Golf had the Agave championship level target approved, and it's interesting. At least the ones on the photo is like this all brown kind of color. Like when I say agave, what does that make you think? It makes me think of like
the fruit.
The fruit or the syrup, or So it kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
So wait, you're going to make a brown disc catcher to put in the woods, though?
Maybe in your backyard.
Yeah, maybe in the backyard.
If you want a championship level one in your
or
backyard.
maybe it's a golf course where it's out in the open. And those are the ones.
Maybe it's pristine green.
Contrast with the greens.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. There's uses. It looks pretty standard in terms of that. Like the height of the disc is like 51 centimeters where the top of the target zone starts, which is pretty comparable to all of them. 12 inner chains, 12 outer chains, if I remember correctly. So it looks fairly similar to every other championship level target that's out there. So, but it is interesting to see more of these kind of targets come out, and it does make me wonder, when are we going to have standardization of some of these things, right? When are we going to get standardization for height and chains and that kind of thing? Where does the target zone start and end? Because they're all kind of within each other, but they vary. They do vary.
Have you seen one of Waisaki's or Ezra's recent videos where they did a putting in his backyard? They had a basket that was shorter between the rim and the basket, so it was squished, and looked even just a little bit tinier. The basket looked a little smaller.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly where he got it. It looked like a legit basket, though. It wasn't like, they got the Costco one and cut it or anything like that.
Right.
It looked like a normal basket, just a little bit smaller dimensions. It was interesting.
And if you watch the tour, it was custom made for him.
Yeah. Okay.
I think they said that in the beginning. I think they said who did it, but somebody made it for him just for the purpose of that video.
The video.
And if you watched any of the tour down under, they had different baskets. I mean, again, the standardization was still the same, but the design was different. The helix, and it did catch I thought a little bit different. You know, again, it could have been just my brain overthinking, my ADHD brain going, oh, I think that disc hit in there and slid a little different. But it seemed definitely a more bowl-shaped basket than almost any of the other baskets. So, as we always say, you know, diversity is great. Let's get more designs out there. You know, more baskets, more different styles. If it's PDGA approved, try it out.
Yep.
Boom. There you go. A couple of discs to mention in kind of the recent and upcoming releases. These are ones you can actually get your hands on, or at least here very soon. DGA had the Typhoon, which is Katrina Allen's driver, released, so you can actually get your hands on that bad mamba jamba. And Latitude 64 had the Peak, of which I think Isaac Robinson... did he put out an announcement on that one? I think that was the Instagram kind of thing, right?
Yeah, he
put out the announcement
on the Peak. Yeah.
On the putter, which is a putter, and it looks like it was on. Oh no, it doesn't release until the 27th, so it's coming out here soon. They just made the announcement early, so you can get your hands on it here in just a couple of days. That's a pure
with a micro
tournament.
Okay.
Yeah,
wonder why they did that.
Interesting
the start
timing.
Of the season is the release of the disc.
Let's see how well he does in All-Star. From what I understand, also it's they took the pure mold, but they put a micro bead on that pure mold, so it has a little slight more stability. And also, it looks like they're only releasing it, from what I understand, is the Grand and Sense plastic lines.
Gotcha.
But you can go put it on, what is it, pre-order right now, I think, at a lot of the places. I think Disc Golf Deals, I think, had it as well.
Cool.
So go check it out. Yeah.
I believe Eric McCabe did a video with just the peaks.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did he?
On his own YouTube channel.
Sweet.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure he just played a couple little loops there at one of the courses.
Okay.
All right.
I could be mistaken again. I'm full of allergy meds, so take everything I say today with a grain of salt.
The show's going to be wild, but you shouldn't take what Ken says with a grain of salt in this next segment.
KEN versus Disc Golf.
Fantasy time. It's my favorite time of year. It used to be fantasy football time was my favorite time of year, but I mean, fantasy disc golf and what Jonathan's doing with Skip Ace is amazing. Again, gotta always shout him out because he's literally doing this on his own dime. You know?
Yeah.
So please, like we mentioned last episode, if you can support him, support him. There is a pro version of Skip Ace that you can sign up for. It gives you more customability with your drafts, with your point systems, because he did change the point system. If you just do the basic league, I believe you can adjust the points to where it's just if you win, you get a point. If you second place, you get so many points.
Gotcha. As
now
opposed to because we did the pro level this time. Now you can do all the individual customizations, but on the other one you can only do a couple. I think.
Right. I believe there was a limitation on what you could do with scoring, what you could do with even picking your events and things like that. I'm pretty sure that's all in the pro level and things like that. But anyway, if you can support him, do it. That's where we're doing our draft tonight. Tonight we're doing a draft. Can't wait. It's
going to be awesome.
So some notes on that real quick. I had mentioned it pre-show behind the curtain, pull behind the curtain a little bit. The MPO field is pretty much draft them and forget it and set them up for this weekend. There's really not anybody that I saw significantly missing. We did mention Nate Sexton with the injury and stuff like that. Check the PDGA page if you want to do a quick, make sure that, the people that you're drafting this week at least are playing this first tournament if you want. But also don't get into the weeds too much. There's a couple FPO players, notably that aren't playing. Again, we mentioned Haley King earlier. We're not sure. She's not on the actual list of the tournament, so I'd be cautious of her. She also does sometimes take a lot of time off. Also, of course, in the FPO division, Kristen Lott is not here. She has not made the trip over yet. She's not going to do that till Waco. She almost always does that. Now, again, are you going to pass her up in your draft when she comes around? Absolutely not. If If you've got a pick to where you want to pick an FPO player, I wouldn't hesitate. You just take her and hope that your second FPO pick in the third or fourth round that comes up is going to be able to move up into that slot. And then your, seventh, eighth round pick female. Again, that's where you want to maybe roll the dice this week. It's the first week, so don't worry about it. If you pick a FPO player that maybe doesn't have has more of an upside, as they say, than just a steady performer like a Holland Hanley or, a Kristen or something like that. So there's where, shoot for your Emily Weatherman, shoot for your Eliezra Midling, things like that. Those girls that have that upside, maybe even a Chantel. She's been down there. She's been practicing. She put up a video. She's won a pro tour. She knows how to win. I'm just saying, if you do have certain FPO players that, aren't there, and that goes throughout the season. What you want to do is, look, when you're prepping for your draft, look ahead of time and see how many tournaments these people are signed up for. Now, again,
right,
they're disc golfers. Sometimes they just don't sign up. I think was it Ezra that missed a major last year or 2 years ago?
I think so.
You're right, yeah.
Totally forgot to sign up. Stuff happens. Life happens. It's disc golf. They don't all have managers like Ricky and people like that doing that stuff. And as we talked about a gazillion times, not everybody has the money, not everybody has a sponsorship that's paying for every event. So you've got people like, trying to think of somebody else. Well, we'll go back to Nate. Nate hasn't toured steady in, nearly a decade maybe now. He plays the West Coast stuff. Yeah, he really picks and chooses. So as you get through your draft, keep that stuff in mind, whether it's, again, I've got a nice cheat sheet that has so far everybody's, events that they're going to be in highlighted and marked and all that. But do yourself a favor if you want to, do some draft prep, then go through and look at your players and not only just go, oh, this person's great, this guy's great, You can dig into the weeds that way.
Absolutely. So, I think what we're all curious to know is, are you going to try to pick Owen Scoggins as your first FPO?
I'm not giving that up.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll give you one of mine if you want.
Oh,
I have a sleeper pick.
Sure. Yeah.
I have a sleeper pick. All right. So, are you taking Owen or? Okay, silence. Dead silence. All right. Well, I'm taking Doss as my sleeper pick, so it wasn't really that. It wasn't really that valuable.
He is playing in a few events, isn't he, this year?
I think so.
He's doing the same thing as last year. Yeah, that he's going to play a few
just
events.
A couple. Yeah. It's my sleeper pick. He did me proud, not in points, but just that he played, and I got to see him play again. Yeah. But
and he
it's my sleeper.
So
Hey.
Good.
Can't fault him for that.
You've been out for a while and he passed. Yeah. I have a couple.
Absolutely.
I have a couple picks that I don't know if are on people's radars. I'm also not going to divulge that right now, but you'll see soon enough.
Are you going to try to get Simon before me?
I don't. You know what? I am one of Simon's biggest fans. Right? I'm not going to say I'm his biggest because I'm sure there's somebody out there, little kid. I'll let go of that, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If he's available, I most likely.
Okay.
If I got him before you, maybe. But I don't know. I don't know if he'd be my first.
Really?
So, right. You're saying
so,
it's
not going to be your first pick?
Maybe
so
I don't know.
Pick. Yeah. Maybe a second. I don't know. I don't know.
Simon, do you hear that?
Simon?
Nick doesn't even like
Justin,
you.
Stop.
Yeah.
Nick doesn't even like you. Anyway.
What do you always say, Justin? Send your emails to nick@discgolfshow.com.
Exactly.
Send all your hate to this email.
You're going to get one from Simon here real soon.
Yeah.
You're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, no. But yeah, there are some non-top 20 players, I would say, that I already have in mind. So we will see.
That's right. Where all drafts in any sport, that's where the meat and potatoes are.
Yeah.
You know, again, your first 2-3 rounds, just take the top rated player. Like, you're not going to really go wrong.
Yeah.
They're all pretty steady when they come to touring. They're all going to perform well. It's when you get into that 4th, 5th, 6th round and you get those bench players, because, you know, I mean, if somebody sprains an ankle at this disc golf, the All-Star event right before the tournament, like, you know, that's you know, so you need that. The bench is so important, you know, unless you get lucky like me, where I just drafted and forgot about it and dominated, because
spanked us.
The people I picked somehow played every event and just had that consistency until we hit Europe. Again, I was a little light on our side on Europe, definitely in the other league, but this is the only league I'm playing this year, boys. So my concentration is solely focused on this league alone.
So he's going for the grand prize of the DGN subscription again this year.
Exactly.
I see your game, and I respect it.
Hey, listen, I was super excited because I know that last year, you weren't able to watch all the events or all the rounds and everything. So I'm stoked, and also a little scared now, because now you'll be able to see the gameplay on every round. And now I'm like, did we just feed the fire? Did we just fuel the fire even more?
We fanned the flames.
I watched all the down under stuff, you know, thanks to GK Throw. I know we have those in the show notes. Like, thanks to Go Throw, now that they have it. I said GK. I blended both their names. Anyway, formerly GK, now Go Throw. Thanks to them, I was able to watch, you know, people with their new bags like Isaac. Emily Weatherman, I know, is a sleeper pick for a lot of people. She just switched bags. I saw some things that maybe some other people didn't see. You know? So.
All right. I guess, I mean, that only leaves really one thing to... Actually, did we want to cover the upcoming events?
Yeah. So I was going to jump into that. You know, you're talking about Go Throw, but we do have some events coming up. We already commented on... 2 days from now, Thursday, you've got the All-Star Challenge that's held in Brooksville, because the 28th is Discraft Supreme Flight Open, presented by Florida's Adventure Coast. That starts on the 28th. So that is the first DGPT event. Be sure to pay attention to that. Another couple notable events that we're going to keep on here until they come through is May 17th through the 25th. That is the 2025 Women's Disc Golf Week. So, again, I think it goes to Throw Pink, right? I believe. I think that's what it's been in the past. The money towards the FPO division and all that stuff. And then also September 12th to the 14th, our friends up north, the Canadian Championship, which is this year is going to be a DGPT Q series. And that is held in Port Hope, Ontario. So, those are just notable events. And as well as, you know, the beginning of the Pro Tour. So, looking forward to that.
Sounds great.
You've got
incoming mail.
Mail call.
Mail call indeed. This is the segment of the show where we share your feedback and answer your questions, and we have an outstanding amount of them, being 0. But we did get some feedback from the last YouTube video, if you will, in the comments, and people are saying that they're really enjoying the fantasy segment. We'll be continuing that kind of throughout the year as we experience the fantasy disc golf thing ourselves in our league, and Ken will be bringing his amazing wisdom to us and telling us his inside picks so that we can finally beat him in our league. That's what he's going to do. That's what I'm writing down everything he says. Everything he says. I'm like, oh yeah, he says that. Yeah, that was a red herring. He's actually doing that. So I'm taking notes. But thank you so much for the feedback. And if you'd like to leave feedback, there's several ways that you can do that. Leave a comment down below on the YouTubes, or you can shoot us an email at theshow@discgolfshow.com. And there's actually another way too. I just recently found out. Thank you for all those that did. That is my lack of knowledge. I didn't know you can leave a comment on the Spotify episodes to the podcast. I like looked through there the other day. I'm like, oh no, people are leaving comments. I didn't even see them. So I've read them all now. Okay. And you could do that and we'll read them all in the future. So if you have a question or if you want to leave your feedback to any of the questions, maybe from the disc golf conversation, we'll read it there. And hey, maybe incorporate your feedback or your question on the show.
Definitely.
I think that pretty much does it for the show. But one thing. All right. What is it?
A little quick product review.
Oh, all right. Ooh, this is I didn't even see this coming. All right, what do we got?
I like previous molds
Big butts.
from this company.
Mm-hmm.
So Luft discs. Luft discs has multiple molds out now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say that is one of the discs that we tested.
Yeah.
And that is surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly to others, a ridiculously overstable disc. That ridiculously puddle top disc, the neon, was so strange to throw for me. Because of that dip and how you grab the disc and where your placement is on the lid on top,
mm-hmm.
it was for me, again, a very odd, uncomfortable disc to throw. And it ended up being very overstable. Again,
did you flick it at all?
I have no forehand. I wish I had some semblance of a forehand, but I don't.
I know a coach.
It might, yeah. It might be. You know what? It might actually be a better disc for forehand. Now that you say that, I didn't even think about that because I'm a predominantly backhand player. I only throw forehands for chip shots mostly, not for drives because it's just uncomfortable. I'm not used to it. But but again, plastic quality great. Looks like a very durable type plastic that we threw, but just an odd. It's unlike any other disc, really. I mean, the range has a bit of a dip like a Berg, right? But that neon has such a drastic puddle top that it was just strange. It was one of the strangest discs I've thrown. So I don't know how much of a review that is, but for me, weird.
I was like, pull out the disc, but then I remembered I have it. It's in my truck still.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah, it's
strange.
It's interesting to throw for sure.
Yeah.
You have to compensate for that horrendous overstability unless you're flicking it, which on the second iteration of the review flight path videos that we're doing, we'll probably do that to give you an idea of kind of how those will turn out too.
Yeah.
Shipping wasn't so much. I'd suggest you throw it out my way and some 55-year-old guy flick it around and throw it around.
Hey,
I don't know if anybody wants to see an old man throw, but
well, they don't have a choice with us two either. So
I'm of the used to. I used to be able to throw this far. I used to be able to do this. So I still got a flick. I still got a forehand.
All right, maybe we'll have to throw at that. Maybe that's how we'll do the forehand videos. There we go. We're coming up with ideas right on the spot. Other things that you should do right on the spot is enter our giveaway, and that's for the giveaway that we're doing for hitting 1,500 subscribers on YouTube as a thank you back to you for following us. Go to the last episode. It's at the very end, and figure out how you can enter into the giveaway. We'll be doing that here, selecting those giveaway winners here very soon. So get in there, do that quick before you miss your opportunity. Subscribe. That's right. If you're in the market, let's say for a disc golf bag, or maybe some swag for disc golf, some accessories you need to pick up, and you're looking at Upper Park Disc Golf, well, then you should use the code Disc Golf Show to save yourself 15% off your entire purchase. It's a good deal. That's more than tax. That's 5% more in a lot of places. Pick yourself up some gear and save yourself some money. Why not? Also, to save yourself some money, you can go to discgolfdealsusa.com/disc golf show. See what we're doing there? It's like a theme. And you can save yourself 10% off your purchases there online. If you can't find it in your local place, the local place that sponsors us, And this show, in part, is Final Nine Sports with their 2 locations, one in Orangeville, one in Rockland. Stop in there or at least support local if you can. This show is now over. If you have any comments, you need to leave feedback for the show, do it in the comments down below, or shoot us an email at theshow@discgolfshow.com or nick@discgolfshow.com if you don't like something that we said. It's his fault. And that pretty much does it for the show. Thank you all for joining us today. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Ken, for joining, making the show what it is. We'll talk to you all next time. And remember, in disc golf, as in life, aim high and let it fly.